Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima says the Nigeria delegation did not head to the 2024 World Economic Forum to beg. Rather, the delegation went to dialogue with investors on a fair and balanced, mutually beneficial relationship. He spoke exclusively with Dr. Ruben Abati in Davos.
Honestly, I was quite impressed with the outpouring of support by the global business community, which have come to appreciate the permanent role Nigeria plays in Africa. For the purpose of perspectives, 1 out of every 4 black men is a Nigerian. And by 2050, we are projected to be the third most populous nation on earth. We will surpass the United States. Our population will be 440 million people. By then, 1 out of every 3 black men is a Nigerian. And by the end of the century, we will be the most populous nation on earth. Certainly, this is the most populous country in Africa and its largest economy. Wherever Nigeria goes, that's where Africa goes. And the trajectory of global growth is facing Africa, and Nigeria will make or mar that destination. Our presence was well received, especially in the light of some far-reaching decisions taken by the present administration towards repositioning the economy. Oil subsidy for successive administration has been an albatross round our neck. The president summoned the political willpower to remove the oil subsidy. And we know the consequences of unveiling a masquerade. That's a huge cabal that piece part on the oil subsidy scam. Look at the multiple exchange rate regime that provided room for a lot of shady practices. We collapsed the multiple exchange rates, the multiple taxation. The president had set up a committee to synchronize our taxes and come up with a single line taxation system. So the global community was thrilled. We had had a lot of positive interface, positive interactions, and very soon our efforts will start yielding fruits. We are not a poor nation by any standard. We are not a poor continent. We want to deal with people on a pedestal of equality. We do not come to the West with a begging bowl, no. We want to deal with them on mutually beneficial terms because ours is the richest continent in the world. The whole country of Europe, their resources are not up to the resources in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is why I said we carry our poverty with dignity. We are not here. Wherever we go to have mutually beneficial relationships with Western nations and with Western entities.
Well, understandably, African leaders at this conference have been also talking about private sector involvement, investment, support for the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. But the question to ask is Africa ready, particularly for the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is one of the major issues here, particularly with regard to artificial intelligence, technology, and what lessons, if any, can Africa learn from Europe and Asia? Only at this conference, President Macron was talking about better financial integration in Europe. Is Africa ready?
Well, Africa missed the agricultural age. Africa missed the industrial age. We are now in the knowledge-driven post-industrial age, dominated by big data, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and we are uniquely positioned to really leapfrog into the new age because this is knowledge-driven, and Africans are doing marvelously well in that arena. As Charles Darwin rightly said, It's not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that survive, but those that are adaptable to change. And Alvin Toffler equally posited something similar to that.
The future shock.
Yes. The illiterates of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and relearn. We are poised to take advantage of the digital revolution. For instance, by 2035, according to Korn Ferry, a global consultancy outfit, the world will suffer from 65 million global talent deficit. The United States of America, Russia, Brazil will all suffer from 6 million talent deficits. Even the global outsourcing capital of the world, India, will only have 1 million surplus. So we are in a unique position. 230 million people, 75% are below the age of 30. Digitally equipped, very much at home with digital technology. We can really take advantage of the digital revolution and occupy our rightful place in the Committee of Nations. The present administration is poised to take advantage of this. There is the 618 million IDICE program, whereby we want to create 2 million digital jobs every year. The highest we had ever gotten from oil was $35 billion in 2011 under President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. But India, in the year 2024 alone, India is generating $100 billion from outsourcing business alone. So I believe we need to change the dynamics, come to terms with global realities, diversify our sources of funding, and reposition our nation in its rightful place in the Committee of Nations. And locally, we have a very competent, a supremely competent young man as the Minister of Communication.
Well, I mean, one of the points you have made at this conference is that entrepreneurial capitalism is embedded in the Nigerian, in the average Nigerian.
Yes.
But what exactly is the administration doing to allay the fears of investors, particularly with regard to issues like providing a level playing field for both local and foreign investors, addressing certain macroeconomic distortions, addressing issues such as foreign exchange, industrial policy? Some of those issues came up yesterday during the Nigerian Business Forum.
Yes.
Those questions were raised. What exactly is the administration doing to build that confidence in the same people we're saying should come and invest in Nigeria?
You know, locally we had a success story to showcase at that forum, at that dialogue, the Indorama experience. When he was invited by former President Olusegun Obasanjo to come and take over NAPCON, they were reluctant. He was literally dragged onto the space. But now Indorama is minting money for that enterprise. Certainly, I cannot downplay the fact that we have challenges, especially in the apex market. But the government is making concerted efforts, coming up with novel solutions, and I believe that no matter how long the night is, it must give way to the light of the dawn. Stormy the weather might well be, but it won't rain forever. We are coming up with novel solutions to address our apex deficits. In the coming weeks and months, I believe, anchored on reality and expectation, that will weather the storm and stabilize the market. Most importantly, we have to create the enabling environment. You have rightly captured it. Rule of law, sanctity of contracts, and our tendency to flip-flop on policies. We'll make pronouncements today. Next week, there will be a change of policy. These are issues that we are going to frontally address, and we are willing to adhere to global best practices for Nigeria to thrive. If Nigeria thrives, Africa has thrived.
But then what do you say to concerns that have also been expressed about insecurity and also corruption in Nigeria?
Well, as far as the issue of insecurity is concerned, it's an issue that is agitating the minds of my president. Efforts are being made to promptly address issues of kidnapping, for ransom, the crisis in the Niger Delta, which is the nation's lifeline. Boko Haram has been largely degraded. 5, 6, 10, 8 years ago, things were in bad shape. But like the monsters, they have reared their ugly heads in the northwest and in the north-central sub-regions. The president is rejigging the security architecture and see to it that the issues of security are promptly addressed in the coming weeks and months.
Well, you were one of the speakers at a panel on how to restore faith in the global system, to re-emphasize the importance of multilateralism. And at this conference, one of the issues, the themes, is how to restore, rebuild trust. Yeah. Now, do you think that will be so easily achieved, given the fact that there are schisms between the North and the South, and suspicions about energy transition and climate adaptation, climate financing? Do you think that the world is fractured beyond immediate redemption?
Well, I spoke at a function. Within 5 minutes, a friend sent me a transcript of my presentation, captured by Arise, back to me here in Davos. The world has gone beyond being a global village. We are now a global living room. So our lives, our fortunes are intertwined. And as Theodore Roosevelt said in his inaugural speech, when he became the United States president, it was at the height of the Great Depression. Despair and despondency was ruling the nation. He says the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The most important thing to rebuild confidence, trust, it has to be anchored on empathy and the realization that, as John Donne said, a man's death diminished me because I am involved in mankind. Neighbor sent to not for whom the bell tolls is tolled for thee. We are one big family. But the world needs leaders that do not see leadership in terms of electoral cycles, but have the vision, have the focus, have the ambition, and appreciation of the dynamics of the world. Where are the Winston Churchills? Where are the Charles de Gaulles? Where are the Theodore Roosevelts? The Mahatma Gandhis, the Jawaharlal Nehrus, the Nelson Mandelas, the Haile Selassies. The world needs quality leaders that will put the interests of humanity over and above the interests of individual nations or communities. Because what binds us together surpasses whatever that divides us. I always tend to give the example of what happened in Syria. 2 million Syrians, Arabic-speaking Syrians, knocking on the doors of Europe, and it caused Brexit. It brought about the emergence of Donald Trump across the Atlantic. So what binds us together supersedes what divides us. We as leaders need to subsume our differences and work for the collective glory of humanity.
Yeah, but this is the problem again with globalism. This Davos conference is the rich, the powerful, the elites of the world talking to themselves, trying to shape the future and solve the world's problems. The poor, who are the hardest hit by all of these problems, they are never at the table. They are not part of the conversation. And some critics say, why would the rich and the powerful think that they can think for the rest of humanity? What do you think?
Well, I slightly beg to differ from that perspective, because we had democratically elected leaders who represent constituents And even at the dinner, at the lunch yesterday, most of the speakers were not even white people. Our own Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was one of the major speakers. The MD of the chief executive of the World Health Organization, the Ethiopian with the tongue-twisting name, I can't recall, jot out his name. So it's a global community of a kaleidoscope of colors. People from the business community, from the political leadership, from the NGOs. One of the speakers was Al Gore. He's a driver of change in the environmental scene. So that goes to show that it's not correct for people to define it in terms of an all-white show or an all-male show, but the global community that represents the kaleidoscope of colors that constitutes us as a whole.
Well, Nigeria is still crude oil dependent. We still run significantly monocultural economy. But where do you see the future of Nigeria at a time when the rest of the world is talking about artificial intelligence, talking about climate adaptation, energy transition, and we're still depending on revenue from oil, using oil as our major benchmark?
Well, if you observe this trend, oil as a percentage of our GDP is gradually declining. Telecommunications is ruling the waves. I see in Nigeria in the next 20, 30 years running a diversified economy with the income largely coming from the digital world, from digital commerce, with the income coming from agriculture, with the income coming from value addition in our natural resources. It goes beyond exporting raw material. A ton of cocoa, how much was a ton of cocoa worth? Not more than $4,000. But they will take it to Europe, the Cadbury's of this world will produce the bounties and the mass and will buy it at 10 times the price. So I believe that in the next couple of years, we are going to reposition the Nigerian economy, especially with the emergence of the African free trade area, will be in a position to be the dominant force in the African continent and add value to our commodities so that the issue of dependence on fossil fuel, because I foresee a situation whereby probably in the next 20 years or even less, oil will be what coal is to Newcastle. But the beauty of the Nigerian experiment is that we are largely a gas nation, not an oil nation. And gas will continue to be relevant in the scheme of things for the next 50 to 100 years.
Okay, Mr. Vice President, let's talk about the perception of this your trip back home. Yesterday, here in Davos, there was a Nigerian Business Forum. Then there was the Nigerian Night,
yes,
where Nigerian culture, cuisine, art, heritage was showcased. But the thing that Nigerians back home have seen was the spectacle of you dancing to Kiss Daniel's Buga on stage. And some of them are saying, other people are talking about climate change and serious issues. Is it that Nigeria went to Davos to go and showcase food and culture and all that? What is the strategic pitch advertising the Nigerian way of life?
Well, we have a vision, a grand vision called Nigeria Destination 2030. We can run away from the fact that Nigerian arts, culture are creating waves in the global scene. And Nigeria has been out of Davos, out of the global scene for quite some time. It was a forum for us to reintroduce Nigeria. And Buga dance is almost becoming our second national anthem. So we had to showcase Nigeria. We have Nigerians that are making waves in the arts world, in the fashion industry. The Black Hawk by, what is her name, by this young lady, is creating waves on Netflix, while Richard Mofe-Damijo was a lead actor. Some of our artists, Bruce Onabrakpeya, Ben Nwono, Shoni Bare, Jimo, are creating waves in the global scene. So we believe that we can maximally tap into our soft power energy. Our passions rule the waves in West Africa. So we are here to sell the Nigerian brand. Nigeria goes beyond con artists on the internet. Last week, the hottest news in the global finance industry is about the sale of global infrastructure led by a Nigerian, by Obulesi, for $12.5 billion to Blackstone. And it might interest you, sir, to know that the whiz kid in the Blackstone family is a young Nigerian who was the best graduating student at Harvard, Dr. Tony Oki. So Nigerians are creating waves, and we have to be the ambassadors of our nation, showcasing our potentials in passion. Dele Sagoi, Lisa Polawio, so many of our fashion designers, Sadiq Kari, Biba, so many of them are doing well, and we felt that we need to highlight our areas of strength to sell the Nigerian brand.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
This is more or less your first international travel.
Yes, sir.
Since the presidency announced that entourages on local and international travels will be reduced, and that the vice president, when he goes on foreign trips, will travel with just a delegation of 5.
Yes.
And it's been reported that on this trip, you came with just about 5 persons. But how convenient is that? Is it a bit difficult? Is it inconveniencing to have a small team, considering the scope of activities that you've been involved in?
Well, considering the state of our economy, the parlous state of our economy, sacrifices have to be made by the leadership as well as the followership. You know, we have to walk the talk. I came with a presidential jet. You came on a commercial flight. So it's not the numbers that count, but our ability to sell the Nigerian brand. I'm wholly in alignment with the president's decision to scale down the number of our entourage, because perception counts. When we go with huge delegations, Nigerians seem to be disgusted. And the recent pronouncements on scaling down the number of delegations actually rhyme very well with the Nigerian populace. And I believe that in the fullness of time, it will have its net effect on our economy. Honestly, there is no cause for one to complain. We had a good show in Davos, and in future trips, this is not cast in iron that we must go with 5 or 6 or 10. The most important thing, especially with regards to the president, on local trips, there are tendencies for us to reconfigure for the president to look at some of these figures. For instance, if the president is going to, let's say, Niger State or Sokoto or Ogun, the local security architecture there can easily handle the security of the president. But if he's going to Maiduguri, my own hometown, with our antecedents of Boko Haram insurgency in the state, there has to be, we have to look at this is why when he went to Owerri, there was a lot of noise in some part of the social media that he went with security support from Abuja. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But here I came with 5. The president will certainly go with 20, and it makes a lot of sense because we have to walk the talk, and Nigerians are happy for that.
Well, but the question that many Nigerians ask again is, how far would the administration be willing to go in terms of cutting costs beyond just reducing the size of presidential?
The government is poised to see to it that we streamline our government machinery and see to it that costs are reduced. Beyond the foreign travels, even the cost of running the government is humongous. And we are looking at it, and in the coming weeks, the government will come out with a blueprint. If possible, how to merge some agencies that are virtually performing the same functions, so that in that way, I believe the cost of governance will come down.
Well, finally, Mr. Vice President, one of the points out there on social media is that, oh, you are in Davos, that nobody has heard from you on the crisis in Ibadan, where there have been explosions, a number of people have died, and in Abuja, where you have away, a lot of kidnappings and all of that.
Well, our heart goes out to the victims of the Ibadan explosions, which was largely caused by illegal miners storing explosives. And the president had come out to show empathy and support to the government and people of Oyo State. And he had directed NEMA to immediately swing into action. NEMA is under the canopy of the Vice President's office, have been in constant touch with the management of NEMA to see to it that the needs of the people are addressed. Locally, as Dele Giwa said, one life lost in cold blood is as gruesome as millions lost in a pogrom. Locally, but sadly, only 2 people lost their lives in Ibadan. On the issue of the kidnappings in the Abuja axis, is receiving very, very prompt attention from the government. I've spoken to the president 3 times. It's something that is agitating his mind. He has tasked the security chiefs to come up with a roadmap towards addressing holistically the entire security challenges across the nation. And it's not well beyond us. We're going to outlive them.
And that was a Rise exclusive interview with Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima in Davos.